welcome to another Keelhauled podcast. I'm your host, CaptainLogun, and we've got a lot of Sea of Thieves news to cover today, so tie yourselves to the mast and hold fast. Ahoy there, pirates. I hope you had yourselves a good week and a good weekend. I know I did. This week, we're going to be talking about the latest tall tale, the final tall tale for the Monkey Island Legends of the Monkey Island Tall Tales that came out this last week. I will probably save the community weekend stuff for next week. It was a very good weekend, aside from a couple things here and there, but overall, really fantastic to see a lot of folks jumping into the game, a lot of folks supporting streamers over on Twitch. And to be honest, I just wish I had more time this weekend to be able to do stuff. So let's get into it. But before we get into any of that, I have to thank the patrons. They are the ones that went over to patreon.com/Keelhauled podcast to support this content just to make things easier for me. I am slowly working on rebuilding my PC, or a new PC, and I have a cooler now that is sitting underneath my desk, and that is the first of many parts. But without this support, it would not be possible. So thank you to People's Republic, El Cute, Balls, Bam Bam Bagel, Captain Chonky, Captain Hayes, Chateau Noof, Super Pack, Zombie Killer, Cloud, Cosmic Johnson, Static Mirror, DA Gaming, Davram TV, El Jefe Esteban, Fergatron, Godhammer 6, Trickster, Jorby Jorbs, Carl Embo, Kazia the Aficionado, Nightstar, our newest patron, Cryptic Slayer, which is a great name, Evil Morpheus, not to be outdone by Lumpy SRQ, messing up on the things there, Space Admiral Ors, thank you, Xbox Mike 29, Murphy Lives, Mutinous Max, Norwegian, Raja the Brave, Regis Stella the Brony Pirate, Replicated Flame, Rustbelt Kid, Skamelt 666, Captain Dasm, Tommy D, TN Professor, Real Big Tuna, Big Bad Pad, Mina Fairy, Captain J Rat of the Flaming Cold Sore, The Lord Chronologist Deadeye Dre, Hager Owl, Jeff H, Ghost Boy 20, Evil Martha, Peter Miller, Rooski Doo, Thor Von Blitz, Windsor Chris, Luke Lore, the Insipid Ghost, and Zam. Wow. Thank you all so much for your love, for your support, for your friendship, honestly. It's really good to talk with you all, especially on those community episodes. It's really fun to kind of chat about stuff. And I'm looking forward to the upcoming one. We just had one last weekend. The next one is going to be at the end of this month. We will be talking about Monkey Island Tall Tale 2 and 3 from their perspective. So I'm going to be talking about stuff this week, as well as the patch notes and stuff that came out, and just overall how I'm feeling about it, because I think this is probably some of Rare's best content. But let's get into that. As always, I love to dive into the patch notes. I love to make sure that you all know exactly what's come to the game with every update. So this one is actually going to be for patch 2.8.6. Can you believe that? We've had 2.8.6. There's been so many little sub patches. It's hard to know overall like how many that is, because they always do like the points and stuff. But I know that we're probably well over 150 updates to the game that just changes to the actual content. But getting into this, let's talk about some of the new items that we just got into stock. So the Legend of Monkey Island Sails and Figurehead Stan's costume set, which is honestly the coolest thing. It's so cool that we get that. Kate Capsize costume as well, which is fantastic. She's going to be hanging out on all the outposts indefinitely, much like the Castaway for the Pirate's Life content. The Herman costume, which it was so great to hear him go on and on, having played the first game, and just his whole thing is great. The Rubber Chicken fishing rod, which is that's an instant buy, and then the Pocket Serpent emote, which I appreciate that they didn't call it something else, because being a Pocket Serpent, there's lots of ways you could go with that. I will probably pick one up, but unfortunately, because it's not like an actual pet, you can't like name it. Otherwise, I would most definitely call mine Ekans, because I'm just a big fan of Pokemon G1 name or like Pokemon. So like, Pocket Snake, Pokemon, Pocket Monster. It's there. I wish I could do it, but it's a little thing. It's not a big deal. The free thing was the Lucky Deal emote. I like that. I'm glad that they're doing that. Free emotes are always fun. I love it. The one thing that I was looking for that I didn't find out about at the time that I wanted to do it was the Fossil Frenzy bundle. This is the something that you can pick up. It's only available through Microsoft stores or Xbox stores or Steam stores, unfortunately. And because of that, it's, you're going to have to go out hunting for it. And especially over on Steam, actually Xbox is kind of, Xbox has this issue too. I feel like it's really hard to find some of these bundles on these stores. Even like looking for just like going through the actual like available items on Steam and stuff. I keep trying to find where these different ones are. And sometimes I feel like I need to know what the actual name of the bundle is so that I can actually search for it. But there are plenty on there, especially if you haven't been picking these up. A lot of these are actually really good ways to like get ancient coins on top of like already getting a good deal on the actual content that's in the bundle as well. I mean, it is what it is. It says it's a bundle. It's a bundle. They're giving you a good deal on it, but I can't see, and I'm looking now, and I still can't actually see this one on the Steam store. I could have swore that this was up here, so it could be one of those things. Actually, I'm going to take a pause. I want to go double check the actual Xbox store because I don't want to say that this is out there if it's not actually out there, because I can't find it on Steam at the moment. So give me 2 seconds. I'll be right back. All right. Well, I'm a little confused now because I actually have this bundle, but I'm pretty sure this bundle came out back when the fossilized set came out forever ago. So I'm wondering if maybe this is information that I accidentally got put onto the patch notes, because the Fossil Frenzy set, like that's been there. There's the Fervative Fox bundle. There's the deluxe bundle, but the deluxe bundle just has like the Ashen Phoenix stuff. So I don't know why this is supposedly new stuff. But it happens. Patch notes, they don't always grab the right information from time to time. Sometimes they got to edit that information, but it's good to know that at least this stuff is available still in the store. I've had mine for a bit now and really love it. But yeah, bundles, great way to get ancient coin. Cause I think, let's see, this one is, they're usually for around like, 15, 16 bucks, 17 bucks, depending on if you have Game Pass or not. And the stuff that you get inside is great. You get the 25,000 gold, which, it's not that huge, but you get the items in there. But you also get the 550 ancient coin, which that actually I think is kind of the nice thing. You actually get the 550, which is good for like a pet. And it's especially if you have like something that you've been holding on to for a while or keeping an eye on. That 550 adds up over time. And overall, just a kind of nice way to not have to go hunting for ancient skeletons, honestly, because I don't know about y'all, but I haven't seen one in a while. I haven't heard of anyone seeing one in a while. Is it become so norm that folks are just like, oh yeah, it's another ancient skelly? Or is it one of those things where like people just don't see them as frequently? I don't know. I miss the days where we did the community update. With last community update, we had it. It was so insane. They were actually giving away ancient skeleton spawn rates and stuff. I mean, I only got the one, but a lot of folks were getting a lot of them out there. So I was hoping that maybe they would do something like that in the future. But anyway, that is part of the patch notes as well. One of the other things that came with this patch was the color changes, or the new range of colors for the bandanas. And they're all available for gold. I appreciate that. All the other stuff that I talked about, that's all Emporium content. Which it's going to vary in cost. Honestly, I think personally for me, I'm probably looking at the rubber chicken fishing rod. as well as the stand costume. I think those are like the two that I'm probably going to shoot for. But we got to have this community weekend, which, you know, again, I don't really want to cover this weekend. I want to talk about Monkey Island. But with the kind of, you know, stuff that's going on this weekend, I think it's really kind of cool just to see a lot of folks spending a lot of time. I know there was a couple ships on a server with community members for Keelhauled, all kind of hanging out and spending time together. It was really cool to see them. I did not get to participate in them because I recorded 4 podcasts this weekend, this weekend, and had a whole bunch of time that I had to spend in games to review and kind of make sure that I got my time spent in on that. I did finally get to actually beat Starfield though. That was kind of cool. But anyway, back to Sea of Thieves news. Why I, instead of me making excuses why I didn't get to play much Sea of Thieves this weekend. Although I'll save it for next week. It's good stories. But anyway, gameplay changes that they have done. The Reaper's Bone emissary flags may no longer be sold to sovereigns. I don't understand this. This is a change that, if I'm being perfectly honest, I don't get, because as far as I know, you can sell any of the flags to the sovereigns. So I don't know why they would turn away the Reaper's Bone emissary ones. Now, obviously, they don't take like any of the Reaper's items in general. It could just be, a lore reason that they're trying to reinforce. Like, hey, the Reaper's Bones are kind of the antagonist for the sovereigns. But overall, they just, they won't take anything from them. So maybe that's just what it is at the end of the day. But it's kind of a bummer because it's just one more thing you have to go run around and go turn in the Reaper's flag to the Athena guy in the tavern, which it's not a big deal, but it definitely, it takes time. So who knows? Not sure why they're doing that. Some of the other changes that we got in this week are going to be tied to migrating servers. Migrating across servers with a damaged mast will no longer cause pirates to stutter when moving around the deck of the ship. This has been something that, it's annoying. It's frustrating. There's definitely times where it feels like the game is moving forward in some aspects, but then moving back in others. This one feels like it's moving forward, but most definitely saw things that, I wish, there's definitely stuff where I was like, man, stuff is kind of moving backwards. But it was good to see that this hopefully has been fixed. I have not come across this yet, so I will keep an eye out on it and let you know if I run into it. And if I do, then I'll most likely probably report it as well too. The other thing was, if pirate harpoons treasure onto the ship during the lost shipment's voyage, but does not move it, the treasure will no longer disappear when the voyage ends. This is kind of because the loot auto drops onto the top deck. There's a weird instance where, I don't know if you remember, but there was a time where people were spawning in the I guess that was actually tied to the Veil of Ancient Secret, or the Veil of Ancients. That wasn't a lost shipment's voyage. I wonder what this is causing issues with then. That's a weird bug. I haven't run into that. Or if I did, I honestly didn't notice the loot had disappeared if it did. Which, oh boy, man, that's I'm surprised that hopefully that's not a big issue. It's a real shame though. Overall though, that people were losing it, because if there's no recouping that, there's no way to get that back unless Rare decides to just give everyone a certain amount of gold. There were some server issues this weekend that were really heartbreaking to see folks just lose out on hours worth of loot to things like alabaster beards. And it's there's no, unless you just give everyone that logged in during the weekend 25,000 gold, which is nothing more most of the time. It's really, it's a painful one. it's a painful one to lose that kind of stuff. But hopefully you guys didn't have that happen. I know some of you did. I'm very sorry to hear that, because it's a real bummer, but hopefully you didn't have any issues this weekend. Hopefully you had fun this weekend. But with the treasure, hopefully keep an eye on that. You know, maybe if you're still running lost shipment voyages like I am, you just kind of grab that stuff and, you know, throw it on the bowsprit, so that way you don't have to worry about it disappearing just in case that bug crops back up. Actually, I would say that, you know, do that for every voyage. Touch your loot. You know, you deserve it. It's not quite yours until you get it turned in, but you only get to turn it in once. So, you know, make sure you're grabbing it, moving around, really getting a feel for it being like yours for a while, at least until someone steals it from you. But the other thing was burying and recovering treasure that has been on your ship while it will no longer show an additional treasure aboard notification. A little thing, not a huge deal. Other things tied to the journey to Melee Island. Players returning to this tall tale from the checkpoint will now see the correct prompts and notifications as they play through it. Because Melee Island and the Monkey Island tall tales are so driven towards kind of playing through things at a certain, like, it's a very linear thing, even though they kind of have you going from place to place and whatnot. But there is a start and an end. There's a flow chart that, you know, you have to work through as you're moving through those. And that can get really, really tough if you're coming back to content after you've been through a portion of it, you know, especially with these notifications and stuff. So hopefully those are fixed. Hopefully those aren't something that you run into with the latest tall tale. And if you do, make sure you kind of see, like, you know, I mean, it's a big thing to ask folks to try and replicate bugs to see if it's things. So even if you come across it once, see if you can grab a photo of the weird thing that's happening, or a clip of it and upload it. I know that I was playing the other day during the Wish You Were Here event, and we had a random cheater spawn above our ship, drop a keg, and then one blundy us with aim assist. And we were just out in the roar, doing vaults. Like it was just kind of weird. So things like that, I know you can report people. And what I always recommend, and this was a topic of conversation in the actual Discord, if you get an opportunity, or if you run into someone that is cheating, especially the PC players, because I typically like to run on Xbox only servers if possible. I feel more comfortable there, and I just kind of, I don't know, I like being on even ground with folks. Given my PC's age versus other PCs, people with PCs, not to mention like the actual hackers themselves. But if you do happen to come across a hacker, please do yourself a favor, report it to Microsoft, because they can IP ban people because of that, especially for hacking. And if you can, also go to the Sea of Thieves website and put in a help ticket or a support ticket to actually report the person. It takes you can upload up to a 50 megabyte file. I will say, grab a screenshot if you can, and record a clip. So that way, if the clip itself is longer than or bigger than the size that they allow, then you'll usually get an email. I've always gotten an email where you can reply back to them with additional stuff, and you can always upload that to like a OneDrive, or can give them like a OneDrive link. And speaking of, I wasn't expecting to actually talk about this week, but it's kind of good news for Xbox players. The policy for captures is changing. This is something that's going to be going into effect January 2024. And the change is captures and clips will now only be on the Xbox network for 90 days. So if you're an Xbox player like me, a lot of my time is spent capturing and clipping things on Xbox. That Xbox network is only going to keep stuff for 90 days. The best thing you can do is, if you don't already, you can always have a OneDrive, and you can copy any of the content that's on your Xbox network over to a OneDrive account, and that OneDrive account will act as a bigger kind of hub. You can also offload all of your captures and stuff to an external hard drive if you want. So like for example, one of my Xboxes has a 2 terabyte. No, I don't know. I think it's a 2 terabyte hard drive. It's one of the external ones that I have, like for Xbox 360 games, Xbox One games, stuff that doesn't require the faster speed to play off of. I offload all of my captures and screenshots to that so that I can keep all of the other content on the main drive, just games. So that way I'm not having issues with it. There's little issues sometimes where every once in a while it feels like a clip maybe takes a little longer to upload compared to when it's, if it's being on the internal drive. But, if you're running an Xbox Series X or S, and you don't have like a mule for all intents and purposes, what people usually call a pack mule, I would recommend, spending $100 or like, $80 on a sale to pick up one of those 2 terabytes or 4 terabyte drives that they make for, like, Seagate usually makes those. Pick up something like that. I know a lot of folks, you can buy, whatever hard drive you want. You can format it for the Xbox. So if you want to get like a 12 gigabyte external hard drive, that'll do you well for multiple generations. But anyway, just wanted to give you guys, how did I get to that? Cheaters. That's how I got to that. Okay. So yeah, going back to what I was saying, there's definitely, I don't even know where I got the cheaters thing from. I'm trying to backtrack how I got to cheaters, other than I was playing and running into, I don't know. I have no idea. It was just a weird thing. Bugs. We were talking about bugs. I was talking about bugs and how if you run into them, you should try and report them. That's how we got there. I walked it back, folks. I'm very proud of myself. You're probably like, yeah, no, duh. Okay. But anyway, moving on. The rest of the patch notes, honestly, are a bunch of audio and visual bugs. Or fixes for bugs that I will kind of spare you for this, because honestly, there's a lot of stuff that it's little things. There's nothing too major that I can really find. So hopefully, a lot of this stuff was stuff that they found as a result of insiders or testing before the patch actually went live. And then as a result, they decided to push that out as like a day one kind of patch thing instead of like from when they were actually doing the insiders thing. But anyway, I wanted to take this time to kind of dive into Tall Tale 3. I want to talk about some of the stuff that might be considered spoilery, but I did want to kind of address how this actually starts out and kind of kick things off first off with the I don't really want to get into like the actual commendations or the rewards that you get for this, because that is kind of special, but they are good. I think that they did a fantastic job with the rewards for this. It's on par with what I want from Rare when it comes to Tall Tales, moments like this, real true mementos of the game. So getting an opportunity to jump into this third Tall Tale, I got to play this last week with Dread Pirate Doug of Race of Legends and Festa Legends, Creo, the game, or Creo, Creo from Twitch streams. He's one of the other Cali locals here that is just a bombastic personality that I absolutely love. I absolutely think Creo is like one of my favorite creators out there. He's constantly got a fantastic attitude and so much energy that I'm envious of in my old age. And Davram TV, host of the Pirate Talk Radio, who was streaming this weekend, but not on Twitch, over on YouTube, who was kind of sailing around with folks and having a good time and enjoying the weekend. And I did not get a chance to do that, unfortunately, just, with the stuff that I've been doing lately. So I was glad to see that folks were doing it as a result. They weren't running the Tall Tale, mind you. They were actually just kind of, playing through the game and actually getting content from there. But Monkey Island Tall Tale 3, I typed this up over on Twitter, and it might actually be a good thing for me to bring back up so I can actually kind of read to you what my initial thoughts were when I first played through this with them, and kind of, like sitting on the content and thinking about it for a while. I gotta say, the tweet that I shared really did kind of encapsulate what I love about this Tall Tale. The references in development that were done to fabricate the atmosphere of the point and click game in 3D still impresses me to this day. I still think this is hands down the best representation of a point and click adventure in 3D I've ever seen. I've never encountered something like this where I feel like someone has nailed the feel of it. The music and the writing are phenomenal, hands down. And they stand out as some of the best conceptually recognized work that Rare has done. It is hard to take something that everyone knows and has already been created and replicate it in a way that feels authentic, but connected to what you're doing at the moment. And I really do love that about this. To grasp at the intent here, you really do have to play through the original game. I would highly recommend that. The passion is there, and this feels like Rare's kind of magnum opus. It really does. And 5 years of tools and growth have afforded the team the foundation that's needed to pull this off in this kind of 3-chapter love letter to Monkey Island. And I've been playing through it and going back through it. I always do really kind of love having that moment in it, that experience of playing through a Tall Tale with someone else, and just kind of having someone else's brain to kind of like help out, because there were definitely moments when I was playing through with Doug and Davram and Carrillo, where I would not have thought of that. I would have been stumped for a while. And sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes that's a bad thing. But I think that at some point, folks are going to be okay. And this happened to me with Monkey Island. After a while with Monkey Island, I had to look up what to do. I had to ask chat when I was streaming it what was needed to do. So I would not, if you feel like you're getting stuck sometimes with this, don't feel like you can't, don't feel like, first off, that it's your fault for not getting it. There's so many ways to approach this open world Tall Tale that there's going to be things that you don't see that other people may see, that honestly, like, if you miss that, it could be enough context to be the thing that gives you the answer to it. So if you miss it, don't feel bad for not getting it, because there may have been something that you missed that would have pointed you to that answer that you would have gotten regardless. Or not regardless, but you would have gotten eventually. So feel free to jump out there, get some guides, talk to community members if you need it. Look for Rare Thief guides. They are hands down the most dedicated to making those guides and doing a really fantastic job of it. I really love the time and effort that they put in. They go capture all the footage after they've played through it and know what to do. So that way you can have it day one. And I really just genuinely appreciate that of them. But getting into the actual island itself, wow, holy cow. This island, at first, I was really depressed, because having played through the first game, I 100% knew what Monkey Island was going to look and feel like. I had a very clear understanding of like the layout, what was going to happen, kind of the general things that you'll see, especially with, the giant monkey kind of stone opening, kind of like the giant Cave of Wonders from Aladdin. So when I got here, I was like kind of looking forward to seeing like how this was all going to play out, and what was going to be the little kind of catches to eventually get me to the end goal, which was down into the actual Monkey Island. But when you actually get to this island, the sheer look and feel of this, the size of this is so amazing. I wish I had an idea of how big this island is compared to Tribute Peak, because it really does feel like they have gone all out with this. It feels like they have been able to utilize the portal system to take players to a completely separate server that is just a Tall Tale. And because this isn't something that has to worry about other ships being in it, there's so many more resources and bandwidth allowed for them to build out whatever they want in this entire server, in this server, and really kind of utilize that space and that kind of resource allotment for the different things. So when you go here and you see this giant stone statue of monkeys stacked on top of each other with this radiant gold idol at the very top being held up in the monkey's arms. It is a wonder to see, like, all the different little things they can do, finding little hidden fishing spots, finding the Herman's kind of new fort, working your way through the different puzzles that are set up to try and like find a way to get these 3 idols that are required to be able to get the key to get to Monkey Island, or get into the Lair, Le Chuck's lair. It is so cool to see all the different things that they've done, and the interaction that they've been able to do with the game rivals what we've seen with A Pirate's Life. And I think a lot of like the town of Tortuga, or not Tortuga. I'm blanking on the name of the island. But the golden, no, I can't think of it. But the island that's in the third Tall Tale. You guys will help me out with it, I'm sure. But the way that you can destroy the clock tower in that is replicated here, but in a way that is familiar, but unique in its own way. Like there's a different point to doing it with this Tall Tale. But with the Pirate's Life, it was just kind of like, it was like a nice little centerpiece cinematic thing, And the reason that I love it is that the reference for here is tied to how the point and click adventure works in Monkey Island. And I really love that. I really, really think that they did a great job kind of paying reverence to some of the different things that are on Monkey Island in the Monkey Island, first game. But using it for different reasons, and you just don't, they could have very easily created their own things, but the fact that they went to all the trouble to do it here, is really just, it's fantastic. It's breathtaking. It really is breathtaking. You can stand up on top of one of the mountain peaks in Monkey Island and just look down on the rest of the actual vegetation in life. And it's so cool to see, because you can see the varied foliage. There's the flora and the fauna of the world is just so cool. And the new change that they've brought in with this, which is the kind of red stone mountains that are very much like part of the original game. It's kind of like getting a new biome without actually getting a new biome. You just don't. We haven't seen a new island in Sea of Thieves in quite a while, so to actually get to see it here through a Tall Tale feels so cool, and really does just it shows that the team over at Rare really did want to make something special with this, and it's so good. I wanted to talk about the 3 idols, because these are 3 of the main puzzles that you have to do to be able to move forward with the rest of the Tall Tale. And it honestly is the bulk of the main island. You're going to be running around working on these 3 main puzzles, and it could be more than 3, could be less than 3. That's just kind of how I formulate it in my mind. But they've done such a good job with creating each individual puzzle. The one flaw that I've really had with this is there isn't a really good introductory point. And I say that knowing that there actually is an introductory point, but the first time you sail in, you're kind of given the breadth of island, and in one grasp. And in most games, or in most Tall Tales, anytime we've done this, it's always been one of those situations where you sailed directly up to where your ship came out of the portal, and you just assume that that is the point of entry for the Tall Tale, especially with the first Tall Tale for Sea of Thieves, A Pirate's Life. You sail up to a beach and you just walk forward and you're there. You know exactly how to get to where you're going, and they kind of funnel you in this way. But with Monkey Island, the only thing I can recommend is that you meet Guybrush and his crew. Cobb's there, the chef is there. There's a few other folks from Melee Island that have joined Guybrush on the Black Pearl, which you can actually get aboard, because the sea monkey is actually on Monkey Island, Sea Monkey being his original galleon. So you get the Black Pearl, which there's also a little bit of question in my mind as to why they have the Black Pearl. I don't know if it was because it's a memory and, the memory of Sea of Thieves is there, but, who has the memory? Because you got Man Cobb, the chef, and Cobb, and another character that I don't want to spoil just for the sake of, you not having to, you coming across it on your own. But you can head over to the Black Pearl after you see them. But the memories here it's strange because no one on this boat should have any knowledge of what the Black Pearl is, as far as I know. So it was very odd to see this. It feels kind of like we had to put the Sea Monkey in Monkey Island, and we wanted something cool for Guybrush and them to be able to use. Oh no, you know what? I take it back. I could be completely misremembering this, and I just completely forgot that the Black Pearl is one of the ships at Stan's shop. If that's the case, I 100% retract what I just said. If it's not, then I have no clue why, or I have no clue how to explain how they got the Black Pearl. But I'm going to take it as me forgetting that the Black Pearl was on sale from Stan's shipyard in the second Tall Tale. Because if that's the case, then it's explained. Cool. No worries there. But in this case, I can't remember. And unfortunately, I don't have time to be able to jump back into that Tall Tale to actually test this out. So I'll have to see if you guys can, fact check me on that one. But having that being the main place that you go to actually get to this is honestly going to be the best thing that you can do. Hopefully a lot of folks did that. Hopefully a lot of folks, knew that they needed to go follow the Black Pearl to see what was going on with Guybrush. When we first got on the beach, we all just split up. We all just ran around in different directions looking for things, trying to figure out what to do. Completely forgot there was a book. Completely forgot to go check and see like what was going on with Guybrush. So it was pretty funny, the chaos that we had. And I think that maybe sometimes that comes just as a result of us being together and talking and looking to entertain with streams and not really thinking too much about, if we were solo and just kind of left to our own thoughts and our own devices, would we have been able to work that out sooner prior to us actually landing on the island? Who knows at this point, because the first experience is just completely gone. But you get to go meet up with the crew that's over on the Black Pearl. They tell you some interesting stuff that's going on with this. But the real treasure here has to be Herman Toothrot, who hands down made the Black Pearl, or made the third Tall Tale so memorable for me. Having him talk about the monkeys that are after his his banana stew or soup it's fantastic. Knowing that the reason why the inhabitants, the original natives to Monkey Island left is because of all the people that were coming to Monkey Island was really cool. I really appreciated just some of the exposition that came with Herman and having Herman being the same voice actor that was part of the Monkey Island Tall Tales was perfect. Really hit well for me as someone who enjoyed the first game and really spent some time there. And to see this was all kind of a way to set up some of the different things that you're going to have to do, knowing that, it's because of him that you're going to be going to different areas on the island that are connected to the first game. But for different reasons was really just awesome. I really think that they did a good job with this. They really found a good way to kind of tell narratives while interacting with the world. The only thing that really is just tough about this is that there are so many little markers that you can come across on. And unless you're following through the actual book, then you're going to run into the situation like we did, where you find stuff in the actual island, like little landmarks that give you items. But without context because of the book or going to the right places first, you tend to run into the situation where you're just kind of running around with this thing in your hand and you don't really know why you need to keep it, but you know it's important because why else would they allow you to get it, right? So that's one of the things that it could have been the fact that I was with 3 other dudes and we were all talking with each other and making jokes and we were not paying attention very well to the instructions that were given to us. And honestly, I blame the Pirate Lord on this. His voice and his cadence is so well known at this point that as soon as he starts talking, all I hear is, it's not about the gold. It's not about the gold. It's not about the gold. Evil will always remain and stuff. So I love the Pirate Lord, but because I know what he usually says, I don't really think to listen to what he's actually saying as a result. So kind of on us for that for sure, but really glad to see that with this Tall Tale, with the past Tall Tales, everything has been voiced by the original actors, which has really left a sense of nostalgia after playing through the first game, because it's like, oh, I get to kind of revisit these characters and stuff. One of the drawbacks to this Tall Tale, you can definitely feel that this Tall Tale was pushed out sooner than it probably should have been. It's in a complete state. There are definitely some things that are a little buggy though, and not like to the point where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this made it through QA. Because I think a lot of it is just a testament to the first 2 Tall Tales, which were, there were a couple bugs here and there, but really they were clean. They were amazingly clean and free of bugs. I mean, little criticisms I have about the pieces of 8 being hard to find on barrels and stuff, things like that I can understand. But overall, I have to say that the quality has been top notch, and I fully anticipate over the next 2 months that Rare will go through all of the weird little glitches that have come up or been on a list for this Tall Tale, because you gotta know, like, the glitches that are in the game right now are stuff that they probably already know about and have on a list of things to fix. They just ran up on time on this case, and Tall Tale being the one that had the most time with it, it's a shame that it feels like because there's so much to this that they didn't get to squash all the bugs that they really should have, and keeping to that 1 a month timeline as a result of their announcement during Xbox's E3 presentation and subsequent information like afterwards. It's a shame that they didn't have more time to really kind of iron out some of the bugs, because some of it was game breaking. In some cases, very, very rarely, but most of it was actually solid. There was only a couple of weird things, but overall, I gotta say, like, I really love the stone pillar. I really love the interaction with Herman. The forts or the fort that was there, the way you get the idols as well too. Very well thought out, very fun and interactive. Definitely leaves you on a breadcrumb trail to kind of go from spot to spot and work things out. I think there was maybe only 1 or 2 things that happened that was like, shoot, I don't know how we're supposed to get the solution for this. We kind of know like what the solution could be, but honestly, we don't fully know like if it will work if we try out a few things. And we did have to try out a few things. But we had some tools. There aren't like a ton of things to carry around, but there's enough. And the things that are enough that if you miss it, it's going to be a real shame. And I do want to say that there are most definitely a couple places where if you have not played through A Pirate's Life and you're going into Monkey Island Tall Tale with no previous experience for Sea of Thieves, like you heard that they were doing a Monkey Island tribute and stuff like that, there's some mechanics that are only available in A Pirate's Life that I really think folks should be kind of given a heads up on, because if you don't know that, if you see a rope and that rope has a portion where some of it's kind of torn away and it's a smaller, thinner piece of rope that is barely holding the rope in place, you can use a sword to cut through that. And that mechanic alone really only exists in the Tall Tales for Pirate's Life and for Monkey Island now. So hopefully things like that don't trip people up, because there are some very critical things that come as a result of knowing that mechanic, that if you don't do it, you are going to get lost and stuck. And that's a shame, because it's so easy to miss if you're not quite sure what to look for, or what to do. And sometimes you just have to like run around hitting stuff with a sword. If I'm being perfectly honest, sometimes that's what you got to do. But really love that. I really loved the kind of diversity in areas as far as like the actual puzzles go. Two of them were very, now that I think about it, two of them were kind of similar, but in different ways. It was to use the same type of mechanic, but they don't use the same type of mechanic using the same tools. It's different tools to accomplish the same thing. And that was kind of nice. The other thing that I think was really cool about this island was this is the first time that we're seeing Rare using the actual rock face as a scalable tool. Typically with everything that we have in Sea of Thieves, you climb everything via, jumping up from spot to spot, or there's a ladder, or you get a cannon up there. And if you have one of those three things, then you're usually good. But if you don't, there's not really a good way to get up to stuff. You kind of have to work your way around the geometry per se. But with this latest Tall Tale, the fact that they did the scalable walls, mountainsides, where it's all kind of like stone on top of stone on top of stone with grab holds available, really does just, I hope they start adding this kind of thing to Sea of Thieves. There's so many times where the islands in Sea of Thieves feel so stagnant that I feel like something like this would really help. Like there's so many times where they've gone back to edit Thieves Haven, Plunder Outpost, what's the other one? The one that I like, that everyone hates, Old Faithful, where they've gone back and added stuff. Even Tribute Peak got ladders. Where I think because they didn't think about it at the time, if Tribute Peak had a rock face that was climbable on the back of the middle portion there, where they typically have that kind of stone circle diagrams where you bring the little, I can't think of what they're called, but the little tablets, no, they're not tablets, little stone coins. Little coins that you bring to them. Getting back to that is such a pain that they had to actually put a ladder in so that people swimming from the other side would get access to it. Having the mechanic of a stone wall to be able to climb, and having that mechanic go from the Tall Tale back to the original adventure, I think would help kind of build in some of those odd mechanics that you only see in Tall Tales that really could benefit adventure. So I'm hoping things like that really do kind of make their way. Also doing things like moving suspicious boulders, which I won't elaborate any more on. But if you move a suspicious boulder, we have other mechanics like that currently in Sea of Thieves, and for good reason. But stuff like that I think would be kind of cool just to have on beaches, on different beaches on islands. Like how many, and it kills me that we have so many, cool little things like this. But I would really love it if there was a way that you could have seashells on beaches and have them be something that you can pick up and look in and have, like a couple pieces of a coin in them, or, part of a map that has an X on it. Like, we have currently the vaults, the Gold Hoarder vaults, where you can go and you can dig up the bottle, and the bottle has part of a map, and then part of the map either has an X or it doesn't. Sometimes the X is, halfway through the actual through the actual tear of the paper. And you're sitting there thinking like, this is such a cool little mechanic. I really wish that this was its own little thing. And I think it'd be really awesome if they had little movable rocks on beaches where you happen to come across it, you move it, and underneath it's hiding, a little piece of map or something for that island, where it just has like a little scrap of paper, and you have to look at the scrap of paper and get an idea of where the little X is. Or it takes you to, another portion, or where you have to look at another, like little adventures on the actual islands that pertain to voyages that could be, part of moving parts of the world that are just kind of natural little parts of the world, and say, okay, well, those boulders, once they're moved, they will, disappear, or they won't be movable until someone moves away from the island, and then they reset the way like animals do. Stuff like that. I don't know. Just cool little things like that I really loved about this tall tale. And obviously with this tall tale, it is kind of diving into the story of LeChuck, how he came to Sea of Thieves, how he's trying to take control of Sea of Thieves, and how you are going to stop him. I don't want to get into what happens with LeChuck's lair, because I think that's a very awesome portion of the game. They didn't quite do it justice in my mind compared to the first tall tale. It felt very neutered as far as like when you look at the environment down there. It's not one-to-one, but they did a really good job of replicating the sense of confusion. And there's certain things that they brought forward from the games that I really don't want to give them away, but there's certain things involving Guybrush that happen that for fans of Monkey Island, you 100% know why what's happening is happening. But for folks that don't, there's a lot of stuff that you have to take on faith. And that's a shame, because there's no way to justify the context needed to be able to explain to people why this is the way it is. And unfortunately, you just kind of have to say, well, that's probably just, something that they did in the game. It's probably something I don't understand. And sometimes that's negative because you feel confused or kind of left out of the loop. And that's never a state where you feel like you want to have all of your audience. There's always going to be people that have never played the game before, and it shouldn't be required. But it should be something that is enhances the thing. But every once in a while they do something like that where someone's going to be left out on it, and it's such a bummer to have those when it's like so intrinsically tied to what you're doing. When it's a little weird offhand thing, like off to the side, it's not required to know why it works the way it works. You can still just kind of appreciate why it's there. I'm thinking of like the 3 spikes with skulls that deal with like part of the puzzle for another part of the monkey idols. That is a reference to the game, but it's so clean that you don't actually need to know that it's part of the original game. It speaks for itself really well. Whereas stuff with Guybrush, it doesn't. Or for example, like going onto the sea monkey and going into the captain's cabin, opening up cabinets, there's stuff in those cabinets that are direct references to Monkey Island, but they're clear enough as to what they are and what you need to do that you don't need the added context of playing the game to be able to do that. And that's not always the case with everything in this tall tale. In some things, it's going to get lost, and that's a shame to me. That's it. It's not a fault on Rare, because there's only so much they can really do to pay homage without excluding people. And most people who've never played Monkey Island, they may never actually realize how much of the stuff in the game is a direct reference or correlation to the original game itself. They may just see it and think, oh, well, it's a dude being strung up by a rope, and that's all that needs to be known about it. But it's clear enough as to what happened that it's important, because it's so unique in this world, even though it is a complete direct comparison to the first game on Monkey Island. So stuff like that I think is actually better design. But overall, a really amazing job with this. The scale of it is fantastic. I was really hoping to get a chance to see the back half of Monkey Island. We were told kind of at the get-go that we'd be able to fully explore all of Melee and Monkey Island, but in reality we're only getting about 50% of not 50%, I would say more like 75% of Monkey Island. There's a small portion on the back of the island that for whatever reason, it rubs me the wrong way, and it probably shouldn't, because it's not integral to the story that they're telling. They told the story well without it, and they explained why it wasn't there. But I would have liked to have seen the characters involved with that and be able to actually have fun with that. But I think that there's some things that don't age well with time, and the inhabitants of Monkey Island is very much something that was captured in time, and to go back to that would definitely kind of smack of inconsiderate nature. You know, it wouldn't be PC of them to be able to. It wouldn't be politically correct, and I see why they did it. But I think that the trouble that you run into is you can tell a story without that and still respect the original content, while understanding that it's kind of like watching, you know, old Looney Tunes shows or old, you know, Mickey Mouse shows and things like that. Like, there's things that historically were considered very insensitive, and that is still very much true of, you know, some of the things in Monkey Island. So the fact that they strayed away from it makes sense. The fact that they didn't put it in the game shows that they want to try and keep a very clear understanding of, like, hey, you know, this is it was a moment in time. You know, we recognize that is something that is not true now and is considered honestly very hurtful in some cases. So better just not to put it in. But I really would have loved to have seen that all fleshed out in 3D. So one thing I did want to let you all know about, just in case you know, maybe hadn't gotten a chance to do all of these yet, or maybe you did and you didn't get all of the rewards. Currently, there is a bug that is known that is not getting everyone the full completion for a lot of the commendations that are tied to this. And it's kind of a shame, because some of them are really cool. Some of them give really good rewards. But I did want to give you a heads up that some of them are causing issues. So keep that in mind. Try to, you know, keep track of the stuff that you've done if you're playing through this, just so that you know what you've actually done. So in case, you know, something comes up and you need to go back and retrace your steps to see if something will trigger, that you've actually, you know, got those kind of written down, you know, like exactly where you found something, what you read or didn't read, things like that. But most of these are honestly pretty straightforward. So hopefully it won't be something where you feel like you're going to be completely lost on them. I think there's only maybe like one or two that are kind of tougher to get. But you just kind of keep your eyes peeled on those ones, or, you know, do as I mentioned earlier, Rare Thief does a great job of building out those guides to make sure that you don't miss that content. So definitely keep an eye out for those. If you're having trouble finding the one or two, you can always go back and take a look at the guide, see exactly like where it was that there were some, and if you actually found that one, or maybe that might help kind of identify the bugged ones that people are running into. I personally haven't run into any that I know of, but I haven't actually been keeping track, so trying to give myself my own advice in this situation here. So hopefully folks will actually see it or listen to this and try and keep that in mind as they're moving their way through the actual Tall Tale. So without spoiling anything, I wanted to just kind of give some impressions on how I felt about the ending. Because there's effectively, I would say, two sections to the ending before the actual end of the Tall Tale. The first portion is very much a Super Mario Brothers fight, in some cases, in a sense that it kind of built into the knowledge of, like, every video game that's been made with a boss fight, you got to stomp on the boss 3 times to have it get credit, or to complete it. So going into the first half of the finale, I was so impressed with what they had created, and I think going through it solo will really just help kind of reinforce that sentiment. I genuinely think that the first part of the finale is some of the coolest stuff that Sea of Thieves has done. next to the Pirates of the Caribbean stuff. I loved it. I really wanted to have stuff like that. It calls back to a mode of Sea of Thieves that we had back in the day that we don't have anymore now, to kind of tease a little bit about it. That honestly, if they had done that, I think that there would have been a place where we could have seen a lot more of that in Sea of Thieves. I really do hope that they're able to do something like this, because the feeling, the sentiment of it felt on the level of what I wanted or what I was hoping for with or what I'm hoping for with the finale for Flameheart. Because whatever the finale for Flameheart is, wherever that fight looks like, the fight for the ending or the first part of the finale for Monkey Island, God, it looks cool, it feels cool, you're doing cool stuff, and it's epic. It really is epic. I'm so glad that they had something like that in the game, because it really ramped up my excitement for what initially was a very much straightforward, like, go find this, take it here, move this, take this. Meanwhile, all the other Tall Tales had LeChuck boasting and bragging about how cool he was and how powerful he was going to be and how pitiful we are. So to finally get like a chance to get at him and then do so in a way that was so epic was so worth it at the end of the day. I was so happy to see that, which kind of takes me to the second part, because the second part is actually where they lost me. Because I really enjoyed the first portion so much. So when I got into the second half of the finale, I went into it really ramped up, emotionally charged from the whole moment. I had such a good time with it. I was very impressed with what they had accomplished. So when I got to the point where the second finale happens, there's a moment that I don't want to spoil for anyone, but it is hands down like a cinematic moment that I've never thought we would get to have in Sea of Thieves. So when it happened, I was emotional at that point. I was like, I can't believe this is happening. This is the coolest freaking thing. I'm so excited to get into this. And I was shattered by what I thought was going to happen that didn't happen. And I was so, at that point, I was like, oh, that's a shame. I feel like what I wanted was cooler than what I got. And it's tough because they teed it up so well, so that when I did actually like get to the ending there, I was just like, this would have been cool if I was solo. But having three other folks with me at the time, we all kind of stood there thinking, oh, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. This is a lot less enthralling. So I was really kind of let down by that, because the first portion of the finale was so good. It was so ramped up. They did such a good job with the pacing, with the music, with the urgency that was placed on you, that when you get to the end and they slow you down, I see why they did it. And it's because it calls back to the first game. It very much calls back to the first game. And I didn't know that they were going to go that route. I should have expected it, but when it happened, I was like, oh, that's a bummer, because at the end of the day, this is still an action first-person shooter. Or not first-person shooter, but a first-person perspective. So to slow things down after you've had so much kind of going against that, it was such a bummer for me to be like, dang it, I should have seen this coming. I should have known that this was the way that it was going to end. And it 100% replicates what was happening in the first game. But the pacing that's involved with the first game was on the same level as what was going on with the different parts of the game. So it like the way that you approach things and the first half of the Monkey Island section in the first game pairs well with the ending. You feel like it's natural. with this, the first finale, or the first part of the finale for Monkey Island, the Tall Tale, is so much more like Sea of Thieves than Monkey Island is, that when you do go back to the Monkey Island, you kind of realize, oh yeah, that's right. This is exactly like how it was in the first game. I forgot that that's what actually happened. So it makes sense that, we're doing that in this one, but it doesn't feel like it's tonally accurate to what we just went through with the first portion, if that makes sense. Like there's a cognitive dissonance that's actively happening because of what I just went through. And as a result, I'm left feeling like someone accidentally downshifted me from 5th gear to 3rd gear. And I'm having to like slow down. I'm having to like brake hard to accommodate that huge shift in gears. Sorry, I'm playing Forza, so my whole mind is like nothing but cars right now. So that really is like the main critique that I have for the game. If I had to change anything, it would be that last portion there at the very end of the finale. I would have had something that is a better combination of Sea of Thieves and Monkey Island. And again, I don't want to spoil it by saying like what I think. I'd be more than happy to share my thoughts about this elsewhere, because I think that they captured the fusion of Sea of Thieves and Monkey Island with that first portion compared to the second portion. And as a result, you're left feeling like you're stuttering or you're tripping over yourself at the very end there. And folks, I'm not saying that if you enjoyed it, that you're wrong for enjoying it. And I'm not trying to say that the intent wasn't justified based on the source material. It 100% was. But it was just a gut instinct feeling that I had when I was playing through it, that I felt that I was being held back. I felt like someone was actively, holding me against my will for what I wanted to do. And because of that, it soured the experience a little bit, because otherwise it would have been a fantastic ending to that Tall Tale. And I still think it's a really fantastic. I still think they did a really good job with it. It serves better, I think, as a single player experience, because you feel more connected to what you're doing, and there's a lot more riding on you completing it as a result. There are portions of this last Tall Tale that I have not seen completed, even though I have it completed, because running through it with other people and it being open, there are 3 objectives that can be accomplished at roughly any time, as long as you have, like the workflow of it kind of worked out. You can accomplish it in different parts at different times. So having stuff done for me, I look forward to going back and kind of seeing those for I'm kind of working on it right now, but to be able to like work on those on my own will be fun, because I'm hoping that the end experience will feel better if I do it solo. And that's not I'm not trying to say like, oh, I can't believe I shouldn't have done it with my friends, because I really did enjoy doing it with them, and I probably wouldn't have been able to finish it in the one night without them. So they made that honestly like possible. So as a result of that, it's very good that they did what they did. But it's also tough, because there's no right way or wrong way to actually go about, doing this, all in one shot. But overall, I still genuinely feel like this is the best content that Sea of Thieves has put out, or Rare has put out in a while. I'm honest when I say that we would not have been able to get this if we hadn't had 5 years worth of content at this point. If we didn't have Sea of Thieves in the state that it is now, the ideas, the mechanics, the engineering that went into this game or into these Tall Tales, I don't think would have been possible, because they've had so much time playing in this space that they understand the rudimentary things that they can do now that are far more expansive than what you could do back in 2018 with Sea of Thieves. Like, they just didn't think about doing those things. So seeing them accomplish this is really, really a real testament to their engineering and their feats that they've been able to do. I just hope that they're able to go and polish a few things and take some feedback from what we had for these Tall Tales if they go through to do another set of Tall Tales in the future for whichever storyline is called for at the time. So I think I'm going to leave it at that. Hopefully that wasn't too spoilery. I really didn't want to spoil too much for folks. So hopefully this wasn't too spoilery. Hopefully you're able to kind of digest it and get an understanding of what I'm talking about, or at least the emotions that I had for it, without feeling like I ruined the experience for you. So that's kind of, I'm hoping I just don't ruin the experience for you. But definitely go try through this, play through it. If you're running into trouble, always recommend, grabbing a guide or looking up a YouTube video, asking friends. The community that I have is fantastic for this, and shout out to them for having folks get together to be able to play together this weekend, to be able to celebrate Sea of Thieves Community Day or Community Weekend for Season 9. Really fantastic to see them working together and getting stuff done. I think they had like a galleon and a brig running around for quite a while. And I know a lot of other folks were working on Hourglass and getting lots of levels and stuff like that. So a lot of folks having fun in Sea of Thieves this weekend, which was a nice reprieve to the vitriol that has been kind of ever present on social media. I have thoughts about the social media stuff with the community weekend, but I'm going to save that for next week. So that's going to do it for this episode. Thanks to everyone for listening. Thanks to everyone for considering this podcast. Thanks for everyone that is supporting the podcast, whether you're telling a friend about it, whether you're just listening to the episode, whether you're engaging on social media with it, or joining the community on the Discord. It's always appreciated. It's never required, but I always want to let you know that it means the world to me to see folks talk about the podcast or reach out to me about stuff when episodes come out. So thank you all to everyone for that. And I will see you all next week. I love you, and I look forward to sailing with you on the Sea of Thieves.